Did you know that phosphorus, the microwave, and even plastic were discovered by accident? Today, we're diving into 13 inventions that changed the world completely by mistake. Toby tells you. Alright, explorers, let's kick things off with something that literally changed the world: penicillin. Back in 1928, Alexander Fleming was working in his lab when he noticed something strange. A mold had accidentally grown on one of his Petri dishes and, surprise, it was killing the harmful bacteria around it. Instead of throwing it away, he studied it and boom, the world's first antibiotic was born. Thanks to this happy accident, millions of lives have been saved. Imagine, a little mold turned into one of the greatest medical discoveries ever. Alright, explorers, up next is something you probably use every day: the microwave. Believe it or not, it was discovered by accident back in the 1940s. Percy Spencer, an engineer, was working on radar technology when he noticed that the chocolate bar in his pocket had melted. Curious, he experimented further, placing popcorn kernels near the radar equipment, and guess what? Popcorn started popping everywhere. That's when he realized the potential of microwaves, and soon after, the microwave oven was born. Talk about turning an accident into a tasty invention. Next up, explorers, is something you've probably used a lot: Post-its. Back in the 1970s, a scientist named Spencer Silver was trying to create a super strong adhesive, but he ended up with a super weak one instead. At first, it seemed useless. It barely stuck to anything. But his colleague, Art Fry, had a brilliant idea. He used the weak adhesive to keep bookmarks in place without damaging the pages. And boom, that's how the Post-it was born. Proof that sometimes a failed experiment can turn into something incredibly useful. Alright, explorers, let's talk about one of the world's most famous drinks, Coca-Cola. Did you know it was originally invented as a medicinal tonic? Back in 1886, John Pemberton, a pharmacist, created it to relieve headaches. But guess what? People loved the sweet flavor so much that it quickly became a popular soft drink. Who knew a failed medicine could turn into such a fizzy global sensation? Next up, explorers, we have something that's probably in your kitchen right now: Teflon. In 1938, a chemist named Roy Plunkett was working on a new refrigerant when, by accident, he ended up with a strange, super slippery substance. At first, no one knew what to do with it, but years later, it became the key ingredient in non-stick cookware. So, thanks to Roy's curious mind, we can now make pancakes without half of them sticking to the pan. Now, explorers, let's talk about something we use every day: plastic. Back in 1907, a chemist named Leo Beckland was trying to create a substitute for shellac, which was used in electrical insulators. Instead, he accidentally created the world's first fully synthetic plastic, known as Bakelite. This discovery opened the door to countless plastic products we use today, from toys to electronics. Imagine a world without plastic. Crazy, right? All thanks to one happy accident. Alright, explorers, here's another life-changing invention that came by accident: the pacemaker. In the 1950s, an engineer named Wilson Greatbatch was working on building a heart-recording device. But he accidentally used the wrong type of resistor in his circuit, and, surprise, it started producing electrical pulses just like a heartbeat. Instead of discarding the mistake, he realized it could be used to regulate heartbeats. And that's how the pacemaker was born. Pretty amazing, right? One little mistake, millions of lives saved. Alright, explorers, ever wondered where Velcro came from? Believe it or not, it was inspired by nature. In 1941, a Swiss engineer named George de Mestral went for a hike with his dog. When they got back, he noticed that tiny burrs from plants were stuck to his clothes and the dog's fur. Curious, he examined them under a microscope and saw that the burrs had tiny hooks. That's when he got the idea to create Velcro. So, thanks to George and his curious mind, we got one of the handiest inventions ever. Alright, explorers, get ready for a shocking discovery, the X-ray. Back in 1895, a German physicist named Wilhelm Röntgen was experimenting with cathode rays when he noticed something strange. A fluorescent screen in his lab started glowing, even though it wasn't in the direct path of the rays. Curious, he placed his hand in front of the rays and saw the outline of his bones on the screen. And that's how X-rays were discovered. Imagine accidentally finding a way to see inside the human body. Now that's one bright idea. Alright, explorers, this next one is pretty wild. The discovery of LSD. In 1938, a Swiss chemist named Albert Hofmann was working on a new drug for circulatory and respiratory issues. While experimenting with a compound derived from a fungus, he accidentally absorbed a small amount through his skin. Soon, he began experiencing strange sensations and vivid hallucinations. Years later, he deliberately tried it again, and that's how LSD became known as a mind-altering substance. Crazy to think that one small accident opened up an entirely new field of study. Alright, explorers, here's a tasty accident. Saccharin, the first artificial sweetener. Back in 1879, a chemist named Konstantin Fallberg was working with coal tar derivatives in his lab. After a long day, he forgot to wash his hands before eating dinner and, surprise, he noticed that everything tasted unusually sweet. Turns out, the substance he had been working on could be used as a sugar substitute. That's how saccharin was born, making life sweeter for millions ever since. Alright, explorers, ever had something break and used super glue to fix it? Well, guess what? It was discovered completely by accident. In 1942, a chemist named Harry Coover was working on creating clear plastic for gun sights during World War II. Instead, he ended up with a substance that stuck to everything it touched. At first, it seemed useless, but years later, it became the super glue we all know today. Funny how something too sticky turned out to be super handy. And finally, explorers, let's talk about a glowing discovery, phosphorus. Back in 1669, a German alchemist named Hennig Brand was trying to turn urine into gold. Yep, you heard that right? Instead, he accidentally ended up with a glowing white substance. This was phosphorus, an element that later became key in creating modern matches. Funny how an experiment for gold led to something much brighter. Well, that's it for today, explorers. I hope you had as much fun as I did learning about these incredible facts. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you won't miss any of our next adventures. See you soon, curious minds. Bye-bye.